Hey Steve, what's going on, buddy? What's going on? Is there something outside I need to know about? Hmm? Is there something outside I need to know about? Wait a minute. I know what you're trying to tell me. Did Timmy fall down the well? Again?
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Spooky Tales with Steve the Cat, the show where we talk about horror movies. I am your new host, Mr. Fancy. I am the associate producer of this program. Steve the Cat has asked me to host the show from this point going forward because our former narrator, Carl the Camera Monkey, has disappeared. We don't know what has happened to Carl. He just disappeared mysteriously. We fear the worst, but we hope for the best for him. We love Carl. Carl is like a member of the family, and we miss him terribly, and we can only hope that... Oh shit, how did he get out of there so fast? Ah!
Hello, and welcome once again to Spooky Tales with Steve the Cat, the show where we talk about horror movies. I am Carl, the production assistant. Yes, I am reclaiming my title. I am tired of being terrorized by this Toy Story reject. They tell me little Timmy has fallen down the well. I go to rescue little Timmy because he falls down the well at least once a week. But little Timmy hasn't fallen down the well. It's a ruse. And when I least expect it, Mr. Fancy pushes me down the well. You know, it was fine when Mr. Fancy was tied up, but poor Steve the Cat cannot resist the urge to play with string. And when he plays with the string, Mr. Fancy gets loose. And when Mr. Fancy gets loose, his demonic nature takes over and I suffer. Well, fortunately for me, well escape was one of my many minors in college, so I was able to get out unharmed. And I will continue to do my narration duties for the show. So, we're doing a couple of fun horror comedies tonight. Hope you guys enjoy them. They're going to be a lot of fun. While you enjoy those, I'll be engaging in some amusing pranks of my own with Mr. Fancy. So, everybody have a good time. I'll check in again at the end of the episode. Well, once again, it's time for Steve's Vocabulary Lesson. This is the part of the show where we investigate new and creative uses of the English language in an effort to stay ahead of social media bots and algorithms that would otherwise try to ban us. Our first word for today, instabinate. This refers to the process of removing one or more of a character's digits through the application of a mechanical process. Now, a related but separate term is instumpinate, another verb referring to the removal of one or more of a character's limbs through the application of a mechanical process. So these words are similar, but not the same, but it's pretty easy to tell these apart. If afterwards your nickname's going to be Stubby, you've been instubbinated. If afterwards your nickname's going to be Stumpy, you have been instumpinated. Now, two more words that are a little more convoluted. Instuinate. This is a verb that refers to the process of converting a character into a lumpy liquid or a slurry through the application of a mechanical process. Now, one of Steve's grammatical pet peeves is that instuinate is often confused with something that is separate and goes under the word insteepinate. Insteepinate means to convert a character into a liquid or slurry-like state through the utilization of a dissolving or corrosive agent. Now, those terms are very similar, but they are distinct from each other. I've put a diagram together to help you out with this. So, let's imagine that you're walking along and you trip and you fall. If you trip and fall into a wood chipper, you have been instuinated. If you trip and fall into a vat of acid, you have been insteepinated. Instuinate, mechanical process. Insteepinate, Basically like tea leaves being steeped, a dissolving process. Please keep these terms in mind. They will come up later in this episode. Let's take a minute to get to know our Scream Queen for this week, the lovely Katrina Bowden. Katrina Bowden was born September 19th, 1988 in Wyckoff, New Jersey. At the beginning of her career, she did various bit parts in sitcoms and television series such as Law & Order, before finally breaking through, being cast as Tina Fey's assistant on the comedy 30 Rock, one of my favorite comedies of all time. She appeared on all 7 seasons of that show. She has appeared in a number of comedies throughout the years. She's obviously done a lot of modeling throughout the years, but she does have a fairly extensive resume of horror movies as well. Some of them include The Shortcut, Tucker and Dale vs. Evil, which we will be discussing today, Piranha 3DD, Scary Movie 5, obviously more of a horror comedy, Hunter's Moon, and Great White. And just one final bullet point in case this has not already occurred to you from the photo montages, Katrina Bowden is quite possibly one of the most beautiful women who has ever lived. So that's our Scream Queen for this week, Katrina Bowden. Well, let's get to our film profile. Our film for this week is Tucker and Dale vs. Evil. And there you see the poster right there. This is a dark horror comedy that was released in the year 2010, directed by Eli Craig, and it stars Tyler Labine, Alan Tudyk, Katrina Bowden, and Jesse Moss. Now, we talked about Katrina Bowden earlier in our Scream Queen tribute. Alan Tudyk you'll recognize from shows like Firefly, Dollhouse, A Knight's Tale. He's done loads of voice work. Tyler Labine's been in a variety of things as well. I know him best from his voice work. He is the voice of Hunk in the Voltron reboot that was done on Netflix, but he's done a lot of live-action work as well. So what can I tell you about Tucker and Dale vs. Evil? This is a very funny comedy. Let's do a quick film summary. So this is a horror comedy of the crazed hillbilly variety. I should say the crazed cannibal hillbilly variety. Now, this story is set in West Virginia, but the movie was actually filmed in Alberta, Canada. Now, I know in the past I have been very harsh on some Canadian horror movies. The good news is this is not a made-for-television Canadian horror movie. This is actually a competent theatrically released horror movie that was filmed in Canada with a Canadian cast, and it is very, very good. The gist of the story is that 2 best friend hillbillies head into the woods to work on the vacation cabin that they have purchased. Along the way, they encounter a group of college students on a Memorial Day weekend camping trip. So, fair enough. They're all on vacation. The hillbillies going up to work on the cabin that they've purchased. The college kids heading up to do a little camping. It's Memorial Day. Everyone's out to have a good time. Except that through a comedy of errors and misunderstandings, the college kids are horrifically killed off one by one in a way that makes it look like the 2 hillbillies are killing them. And it's doubly funny because the 2 hillbillies are actually really nice, good-natured guys, and they have no idea what's going on. So the entire comedy of this is the contrast of what the college kids think is going on versus what Tucker and Dale think is going on. It's just hilarious to watch. It is an absolutely hilarious spin on the traditional horror movie formulae. Just a couple of things about this. When Tucker and Dale get to the cabin that they've just purchased, which is a fixer-upper cabin up in the middle of the woods in West Virginia, this cabin quite obviously belonged to a serial killer. It's got all the trophies hanging from it, the newspaper clippings, booby traps, everything else, and it doesn't occur to either of them that that's the case. They just think the guy was a news junkie, and they think the booby trap is just a loose board. It's just funny. The movie is just full of misunderstandings like that. Now, your typical college kids go on spring break movie always includes an encounter at the gas station where they encounter a hillbilly and something frightening happens. And that happens in this movie, but that scene is shown from the perspective of Tucker and Dale instead of the college students. And what is happening is that Dale, the good-natured hillbilly who's just a big old teddy bear, wants to go and flirt with one of the college girls, but he's insecure and doesn't know how. So Tucker tells him, hey, you're a good guy, just smile and laugh and let her know you've got a sense of humor. So there's Dale walking over there with his sickle because they're going out to chop weeds and laughing like a maniac at her. And from the college kid's perspective, it looks like he's the Grim Reaper threatening them. And just the entire movie unfolds like that. It's just so funny. So the villain profile for this, there is no villain profile for this movie. You'll have to watch to find out why. I'm not saying that there's not a villain as the movie unfolds, but I don't want to give anything away. The movie's just a lot of fun to watch. It's very well done. It's very funny. I recommend this movie highly. Okay, let's get to the scorecard for Tucker and Dale vs. Evil. To start with, kills. 12, and that includes some kills in flashbacks. Now, this is slightly confusing because some of the flashbacks are memories, and the memories change as the movie goes on, but I'm going to call it 12. Bare breasts. 2, it's kind of a glimpse from a distance in one skinny dipping scene, but that's about it, and it is not Katrina Bowden. Sorry, guys. Car chases. I'm calling it 1 with an asterisk. It's more of a very short-lived joyride ending with a collision with a tree. It's not so much a car chase, but it's basically all you've got for this movie. Diggin' clonkings. Going back a few weeks in the vocabulary lessons, diggin' clonkings. There is one semi-comedic diggin' clonking in this movie. Deus ex nada ana. Again, going back to an earlier vocabulary lesson. Again, there's one of those. Instubbinatings. There is one of those. Instumpinatings. Oh, see below. Instuinatings. There is an instuinating that, yes, in an Olympic caliber feat of degree of difficulty, that instuinating also includes a reverse double instumpinating. It is just miraculous to watch. I can't explain it. It just has to be experienced. You have to watch the movie for yourself. So, we're not going to do bonus features for this because I actually like this movie, and bonus features is something I do when I make fun of a movie. But for this movie, we're going to do a few out-of-context punchlines. Number 1. Oh, it's the pancakes! You don't like pancakes, I'll get you something else! Very funny if you've watched the movie. Oh, he looks like he's going to walk it off. He's going to be fine. Number 3. He's making her dig her own grave. Number 4. Oh my God, they cut off his bowling fingers. And finally, your friend must be allergic to bees or something because he was running like a bat out of hell. Keep all of those punchlines in mind when you go back and watch the movie. They are all hysterical when seen in context. So, Steve's final score for Tucker and Dale vs. Evil. We're going to give this 3.5 paws out of 4. It is a fun horror comedy. It is creative. It's a little bit gory, but in a funny manner, and it's even more fun if you're familiar with traditional horror movie formulae. So the more you know about horror movies, the more you're going to enjoy this one. But even somebody who's not a fan of horror movies can enjoy this and just appreciate the contrast between what the college students think is going on versus what Tucker and Dale think is going on, and the whole comedy of errors and misunderstandings. The whole thing is just very funny. I recommend this one highly. I think you'll enjoy it. Guess what, folks? We're not finished yet. We have a bonus movie this week. Our bonus movie is Zombievers. There you see the poster right there. Now, right up front, Zombievers is not a Katrina Bowden movie. This movie I'm only doing because this is the kind of movie that pops up in your queue on a streaming service after you've watched something like Tucker and Dale vs. Evil. This is one of those movies that pops up as you might also like. This is a dark, campy horror comedy that was released in the year 2014. It was directed by Jordan Rubin, and the cast includes Rachel Melvin, Courtney Palm, Lexi Atkins, Hutch Dano, Jake Weary, Peter Gilroy, and Bill Burr. And yes, it is that Bill Burr, the comedian. This movie is actually surprisingly funny and makes a nice companion piece to Tucker and Dale vs. Evil. So if you're doing a movie party and you want to do a couple of horror comedies, Tucker and Dale vs. Evil combined with Zombievers would give you a very good pairing for the evening. So let's talk about this movie a little bit. Zombievers. Well, again, this is one of those movies where the poster tells you a whole lot, but we're going to do a film summary anyway. This is a campy horror comedy of the college kids on spring break variety. It was filmed in California at the Disney-owned Golden Oak Ranch, with practical special effects provided by a shop called Creature Effects. Now, the Golden Oak Ranch, or sometimes called the Disney Ranch, has been around for a long time, has been part of the Disney portfolio going back to the days of the Mickey Mouse Club, and has been used in a lot of stuff over the years, and was used for the filming of Zombievers. Now, the team that did the special effects for this, Creature Effects, this is not two guys working out of somebody's garage. These guys have actually worked on movies like The Last Samurai, 300, I Am Legend, and Cowboys and Aliens. They've done a lot of animatronic effects, particularly animatronic horses in movies where you do scenes where you can't risk injuring a real horse. So, actually, a really good creature shop did the effects for this movie. The gist of the movie, which you can probably figure out from the poster, but 3 attractive bikini-clad college girls go away for the weekend at a cabin on a lake, borrowing a cabin from a relative, of course. While they are there, they encounter a group of beavers that have been transformed into vicious, murderous zombie beavers by a toxic waste spill. I'm going to say that again in case it slipped by you the first time. Beavers that have been transformed into vicious, murderous zombie beavers by a toxic waste spill. Now, if that didn't give it away already, let me tell you, this movie is not even a little bit serious. This is a comedy. It is not trying to be serious. It is just trying to be silly, but it's a lot of fun. The practical special effects are, I would say, campy but fun. If they had made them any more realistic than they were, it actually would have detracted from the comedy of the movie. So I think they did a good job of kind of finding the sweet spot between, hey, we're actually competent and our stuff doesn't look like crap, and hey, we don't want to make this look too uber realistic, or else it kind of makes this look like we were trying to make a serious movie and we really weren't. This is a surprisingly entertaining movie if you're in the mood for something silly. I did not expect to enjoy this movie. I have now watched it several times and I just like it. It's just funny. So let's talk about the villain profile. Our villain? Well, zombie beavers. There you see one with his cold, dead zombie eyes. These belong to a class of creature known as toxic waste-imbued woodland varmints. Their special powers include extreme viciousness, expert chewing and tunneling skills, they are unkillable because they're zombies, and the bite, of course, transmits the zombie beaver virus. Their signature weapon, again you can see in the picture, is their great big zombie beaver teeth. And their signature technique includes ambush attacks from underwater, under the floor, or by chewing through windows and doors. And, terrifyingly, they can also drop trees on victims with pinpoint accuracy, and that is real. The woods are dangerous for real because beavers can do that for real. Beavers are apex predators and they can drop a tree on you at any moment. I don't know why anyone goes hiking ever. Beavers are just the scourge of the earth and they will kill you as soon as look at you. Don't ever go in the woods, folks. It's just not safe. So that's our villain profile for this movie. Let's get to the scorecard for Zombievers, starting with kills. I counted 10. Now that does include conversions from human to zombie, but that does not include dead beavers. So we're talking about 10 people either killed or converted into zombies. Bare breasts. I'm going to call this 6, but with an asterisk, because quite frankly, there is a scene in this movie where Courtney Palm walks around topless for a long time, and I wasn't exactly sure how to score that. In fact, she doesn't seem to be really concerned with anyone seeing her until a bear shows up, and then she covers herself up, so I'm not exactly sure what to make of that, and I'm not going to think about it too hard. Possumings, there are 2. In Stumpanatings, again, there are 2, including one sopranoization. Now, I have not defined sopranoization. I am assuming you guys can figure that one out. CGI bears, yeah, there's one. It's fake looking. It's intentionally fake looking. They could have done a better CGI bear. Kind of the point was that it was supposed to look fake. Coitus interruptus. I'm calling that 2, but again with asterisks, because in one case it is girl on girl, and technically if it's girl on girl it's not coitus, but you get the drift. It happened twice. Implausibly douchey boyfriends. We talked about this a few episodes back during Spirit Camp. In this one, we're going to call all 3 of them implausibly douchey boyfriends. I just do not understand how these 3 women would end up with these 3 men. It's just an artifact of the writing. And finally, double entendres using the word beaver. Well, there's a smoking hole in my floor from where my counter melted down. Not really surprising, but all the same, if you try to count, you might just hurt yourself. But with your viewing of Zombeavers, you also get some bonus features. Let's talk about those. You get comically bad fake sex. Now, it's intentionally comedically bad fake sex. They even go over it in the gag reel, so it's not intended to look realistic, but it is comically bad. You get dog overboard. Yes, at one point in the movie, one of the douchey boyfriends tries to save everybody by tossing the dog overboard to the beavers, and that might horrify some of you. I'm a cat. I just think that's hysterical. Death by tree fall. Well, we discussed that, and that is a real-life thing that you worry about in the woods because beavers are remorseless killing machines. Zombie werebeavers. Zombie werebeaver bears. Oh yes, there's one of those. And blazing beavers. There's also a gag reel in this movie, so if there was any part of your brain that said this was a serious movie, just switch that off. If at any point you're one of those people that just has a lot of empathy, and even though you know the movie is fake and supposed to be silly, you kind of feel bad for the characters anyway, it's kind of nice that at the end it immediately goes into a gag reel and you immediately see that, don't worry, everybody's actually fine. So that's actually kind of fun. There is also an after credit scene after the gag reel and after the credits, so stick around to the end. And finally, Zombeavers bonus features includes Courtney Palm. We here at Spooky Tales with Steve the Cat would like to declare that Courtney Palm is now the official Scream Queen of Spooky Tales with Steve the Cat. So if anyone out there is affiliated with Courtney Palm or her management or her representation, please let her know that she is now officially the official Scream Queen of Spooky Tales with Steve the Cat, because Steve just adores her. So anyway, get them in touch with us. We'll send her some swag. We don't actually have any swag for this show, but on the off chance that anyone who knows Courtney Palm does get her in touch with us, we will create some swag for her because we just love her. We love you, Courtney Palm. Thank you so much for Zombeavers. So, Steve's final score for Zombeavers. We're going to give this 2.5 paws out of 4, and I flirted with giving it 3, but we're going to give it 2.5. It is a lot of campy, sexy fun that does not take itself too seriously, and it features some amusing practical special effects. I won't say convincing practical special effects because they were not intended to be really convincing. I will just say that they're amusing and fun. Again, I enjoyed this movie, especially if you make this a double feature with Tucker and Dale versus Evil. I think you will have a fun evening, so I recommend Zombeavers. Well, we're almost to the end of this episode, but before we go, let's quickly talk about some other stuff Steve watched this week. Number 1, Wrath of the Crows. In this movie, a woman dressed as a crow forces a group of condemned prisoners to confront their past deeds. Now, if that wasn't enough of a giveaway, you can probably guess that this is a weird foreign film. This is, in fact, a weird Italian horror film that Mother de la Morte forced me to watch. She loves this kind of stuff. She demanded that I watch one, and I gotta admit, it was pretty good. The movie's a bit artsy, but not inaccessibly so. So, if you are kind of a new fan to horror movies or a casual fan, and you want to maybe dip your toe into the more artsy side of horror movies or the more psychological side, You could do a lot worse in this movie. It's maybe a pretty good introduction to the more artsy side of horror movies. Now, this movie, being Italian, I did not see on any of the major streaming services, but I did find the full-length version available on YouTube in what did seem to be a legitimate copyrighted broadcast, so I don't think it was pirated. But if nothing else, you may be able to find this movie on YouTube. Number 2, Lycan. A group of college film students on a camping trip to investigate a local legend encounter what may be a werewolf. I can describe this movie as low budget, poor production values, and poor acting. Once again, I was looking for werewolf movies for a potential future episode of the show, and once again, I struck out. This movie just is not very good. I do not know how this lead actress landed this role. I can only assume that her biggest qualification was her willingness to walk around and strut around naked while dripping in blood. Honestly, even that's not a redeeming characteristic of this movie. After about 2 seconds, I was like, honey, please just put your clothes back on. It's not working for anybody. I recommend you avoid the movie Lycan. Finally, The Burning. This is a classic. This is going back a ways. This is an old school summer camp slasher movie from 1981, so going way back. In this movie, a groundskeeper is maimed by a prank gone bad and years later returns for revenge. Now, this is a pretty good movie when judged in the context of when it was released. Now, it does not hold up against modern movies in terms of special effects and in terms of production values and everything else. You have to understand, this is one of the early movies from the 1980s that helped create the current horror movie genre, so they didn't have the budget or production crew or anything else that you would have now to put on this kind of movie. Now, the fun thing about these old school horror movies is who appears in them. If you go back and watch the original Nightmare on Elm Street, you see Johnny Depp. If you go back and watch the original Friday the 13th, you see Kevin Bacon. If you go back and watch an old movie called Return to Horror High, you'll see a small appearance by a very young actor named George Clooney. This movie, The Burning, features Jason Alexander, who played George Costanza on Seinfeld most famously, and also includes Fisher Stevens and Holly Hunter. So there's some familiar faces to look out for. You will definitely recognize Jason Alexander, although he is certainly much younger than when he appeared on Seinfeld and has a lot more hair in this movie. But definitely recognizable as Jason Alexander, and you can kind of almost see a little bit of young George Costanza goes to summer camp in this movie. So if you're in the mood for something old school, you can definitely recommend The Burning. Definitely recommend you avoid Lycan. And Wrath of the Crows, if you want to try something artsy, you can do a lot worse. So I would cautiously recommend that one. So that's some other stuff Steve watched this week. Would you believe this little hellspawn is actually flame retardant? I mean, who among us would have guessed that Hellboy was a documentary? Anyway, that wraps it up for this episode of Spooky Tales with Steve the Cat. I hope you have enjoyed it. We certainly enjoyed putting the episode on for you. Remember to like and share and subscribe to stay up to date with what goes on with Spooky Tales with Steve the Cat. We'll be back with another episode next week. In the meantime, have a great week and thanks for watching. Bye-bye. Hey Steve, check it out. Our package is here. Yeah, I complained to the special effects shop that sent us Fancy, and they sent us a replacement at no charge. So I'm really curious to see what they sent us. It should be, it should be lifelike and adorable. So this is going to be our ticket to those sweet, sweet merchandising dollars. Let's see what they got. Come on. Let's see what we got in here. Well packaged. Oh, son of a...